Good morning. My name is John, and I am a recovering grumpy old man. I know it might be hard to believe looking at me, this boyish, eternally youthful face you see in front of you. It's okay. Grumpy old manism is often an invisible affliction, but it was one I was diagnosed with almost 30 years ago now, as we sat around the breakfast table in my dormitory my freshman year, conversing about this and that with friends, and I said something that gave my best friend pause, and he stopped and he looked at me and he pointed that accusatory finger and said, "You, sir, are a curmudgeon." And everybody else around the table stopped and looked at me and nodded and said, "Yes, indeed." And I had to sit back a second, because when that many people stop and nod and affirm that they see something in you, you have to pause and reflect. Could it be? Am I a curmudgeon? And as I looked back over my life to that date, I realized that, in fact, yes, they were probably right. In fact, I had probably been a grumpy old man from the day of my birth. I was the one who in high school, when we went to the dance, would stand against the wall, not wanting to get out in the middle and strut my stuff lest I do it wrong, and everybody started to laugh at me because, of course, I am the center of the universe and everyone is heavily invested in how I look dancing, right? I am the one who can come up with every possible reason why we cannot do that fun thing you just suggested we go out and do. I am the one who, when you ask me how I feel about something, even if it was something I enjoyed, the most rousing endorsement I can come up with for you is, "Yeah, it's all right." I am the person who, when you ask, "How could this possibly be worse?" will be right there with the answer for you, because, ladies and gentlemen, I can conjugate the verb to fail through tenses linguists haven't even dreamed of. I am a curmudgeon. How did I get to be this way? Where did this grumpy old manhood come from at such a young age? And I realized, looking back over all of these incidents in my life, that this curmudgeonhood comes from a desperate need for control in my life. I need to be in control. I need to know what's happening right now, and I need to know what's going to happen in the next moment, and I need to know the best path to get from the now to the next moment, and I need to know what the outcome is going to be, and if I don't know all of these things, we're not doing it. Nope. I must be in control, and if I have any fun or if I start enjoying myself at all, that might mean that I lose myself a bit, and then the control starts to slip away, and there's no way we're doing that. I have to know what is happening now and next and be in control. I used to think that there was something terribly wrong with me because I approached life this way. That I wanted to be in control at all times. But the more I studied the problem, the more it turns out there's a perfectly reasonable, rational, biological, evolutionary reason for me approaching life the way that I do, and it's all y'all who are fun and spontaneous who have the problem, okay? See, there's this piece of our brain called the amygdala. We call it the lizard brain. It's a early piece of brain that has evolved over the years, and we still carry it with us. And it was a part of the brain in our ancestors that basically was able to scan everything going on around you and tell you what was wrong with everything around you and what could possibly hurt you or kill you, and tell you when it was time to run away from it. And we still have that in our systems. It is still part of our nervous systems. It still speaks to us constantly. I hear it all the time. It is the voice talking to me that when we're out somewhere and I'm having a reasonably good time, the amygdala says, yeah, this is nice. But I wonder how it could be terrible. And then proceeds to make a very comprehensive list of all the ways, and I listen to it. I let myself listen to that voice. And it's exhausting. It is tiring. Trying to predict how everything's going to be bad from this moment to the next, especially when you're in a profession like mine, right? I'm supposed to be working with all of you, helping you through all your hard times. Except when I'm making those lists of how it will be bad, I run out of gas. I knew I had to do something about that. Several years ago, I started engaging with a spiritual director, someone I go see once a month, just kind of talk through what's going on in my soul and try to keep me course-corrected on the right path, clear of heart and mind so that I can do the work that I'm called to do. And when I started working with her, one of her first questions was, okay, what do you want to get out of these sessions, John? And I said immediately, I want to rediscover joy. I need to get a sense of joy back in my life and in my work. She said, all right, we can do that. We can get you on that path. And so we started talking. All right, so what are the moments in your life, the things that you do that bring you the most enjoyment? And I had to sit there in the quiet for quite a while. And I have to admit, in that first conversation, I was having a hard time coming up with an answer for what it was I enjoyed doing. And she said, okay, back up, stop there. Who is the person in your life who exhibits the most joy? I can answer that question. Great. Go spend all the time you can with them. Spend all the time you can with them and figure out how it is that they access all that joy. And so I went home and spent time with my other spiritual advisor. This one is a lot cheaper. I pay her in dog food. Tooth. River, my other spiritual advisor, the dog we have had now for 6 years, 7 years. First off, it's amazing that we have a dog. I don't know how we ended up with a dog in our life. Part of my grumpy old manhood was an insistence that I did not like dogs. I hated dogs. But Jess and the kids wore me down for an entire year, and we got a dog who I picked out of the lineup and somehow named. So there you go. I've already had a bit of a turnaround in my life around the subject of joy. River is the guru of joy. If you've owned a dog, you've probably experienced this. I will get up and I will go to work. And at the end of the day, I will come home. And about a half a mile away, down at the bottom of the hill, she will already sense that I am on my way. I don't know how she does it. The ears prick up. And then I open the front door and stand in the doorway, and the tail starts to go whack, 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 whack. And then I step over the threshold, and then the butt starts to go with the tail a little bit. We get a little more sass in the tail wagging, and then I step in, and then she is up, and it's a full body wag, like from the middle of her body, it's going back and forth like watching a fish swim. I'm worried about her spine, the way she moves like that. The tail's going in a full circle like she's going to helicopter off into the sky. And the dialogue in her head, I can hear it, is, oh my God, you're here. You were gone and you came back. You were lost and now you are found. She is the loving parent in the prodigal son story. That is all she does, all the time. That is her approach to life. And my director says, all right, you go spend all the time you can with this person who exhibits the most joy in your life. And that's what I decide I'm going to do in these first months of direction. I'm going to sit with this dog, and I'm going to figure out this whole joy thing that she does. I'm going to just sit there and stare at her. Okay, are we doing joy? How about now? Are we doing it? We did it. We did joy. When I missed the... How am I not figuring this out watching this dog? This dog, apart from the joy, is an idiot. She eats dust bunnies. She cannot figure out how to open doors. If she can do joy, I can watch her and figure out joy, but I'm staring at the dog and I can't get it. I am frustrating myself watching this dog, trying to figure out joy again and again and again, and just tiring myself out, trying to make it happen to the point where I just got to lie down and take a nap. At which point my dog starts to talk to me. Don't laugh, your dogs do it too. Sitting there drifting off to sleep, and she says, John, dude, you cannot plan for this joy thing. This isn't something that you write down in your calendar and schedule for a later date and you go do. It's not a step-by-step process. There aren't instructions. There's no kit that comes with tools to do it. In fact, if you really, really want to rediscover where this joy is in your life, I'm sorry to tell you, man, but you're going to have to give up that one thing that you hold most precious in your life: control. You are going to have to figure out how to be in the moment, to let it all go. Dang. Not the answer I was hoping for, but it is, in fact, the key. Joy does not come in worrying about the next moment. Joy comes in learning to live in the here and the now, in learning how to be here now, as the Buddhists would say. James Bazar, in his book Awakening to Joy, tells this story. It was a warm April afternoon in Yucca Valley where I was leading a meditation retreat. During a break from teaching, I was in the staff room with my son Adam, then 2 years old. On the table was a huge bowl of luscious, ripe strawberries, which happened to be his favorite food. I lifted Adam to a chair so he could take one. He started stuffing one strawberry after another into his mouth, the red juice streaming down his shirt. As I watched him, the naive notion occurred to me that I could teach him the value of enjoying the moment. I would show him, as I do with adults through eating meditation, how to slow down enough to fully taste the strawberry in his mouth before taking another. I moved the bowl out of his reach and coaxed him to finish what he already had. Adam would have none of it. He began howling, his mouth filled with juicy red fruit. He lunged for the bowl imploring at the top of his lungs, "Strawberry!" That image has stuck with me over the years as a symbol of our human predicament. We often don't enjoy the experience at hand because we're so caught up with reaching out for the next one. The way Jane, my wife, once put it, sometimes I think that there's something more out there that will make me happier, when really the best thing to do is to settle back and enjoy the moment that I am in. I didn't need to rediscover joy so much as I needed to rediscover the moment. That's my story he's telling right there. Me always reaching out for the next moment. Not because it's better, but because I needed to know how it was going to be bad. I needed to learn to live in the here and now and not be looking off at the horizon going, okay, how's this gonna suck? We need to learn to live in the here and the now, to let all that good stuff soak into us, all that juicy red fruit, all that luscious life around us. Living in the now fully. Because there's lots of good around us. I think that's why we as adults enjoy watching our children perform so much, like our kids' choir last week lined up along here. They are in that moment, singing or not, facing the audience or not, doing something they love to do in front of people who they know love them and worrying about nothing else, just letting it all go. And that's a skill we start to lose even before we reach adulthood. Last couple of weekends, I got to go to Albuquerque and down to the Basilica in Santa Fe to watch my daughter perform in the Santa Fe Opera's little Shoes for the Santo Niño opera with a whole bunch of other school kids from all over New Mexico. And there's one moment that sticks with me. There was a moment where everyone was supposed to be animals. Animals in the night sounds scaring this one particular girl on her journey. We had one of the older girls who was supposed to be an owl, and you could tell that part of her thought process was, please do not notice that I am not really an owl. It was a little half-hearted. But one of the younger ones just let it all loose. They were going to be a dog, and they were going to be fully a dog, and they were just down on all fours and just trotting like a dog all across the stage, barking to their heart's content, not caring if anyone noticed that it was not really a dog or that they didn't move quite exactly like a dog would on all fours if a person was down on all fours, just letting it all go. It is great as a grown-up to sit in that environment and soak that in, to see that sort of joy play out across a stage, to remember what that was like, and maybe feel just a little envious at the same time too. To watch a young person perform and not care if they're getting the notes right or exactly impersonating an owl or even looking at the audience while they're performing, but just doing what they love to do. Not judging their own performance. Not worried about whether or not the people watching them are judging what they are doing. Not worried at all that someone is not going to love them because they didn't do it right. To just be in the moment. Doing what they love and being loved for it. Not worrying about judgment in any direction. What an amazing way to be. What a way to live. Imagine if we could do that at 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and not just 5. Imagine if that were our way of being. And it's this letting go of the worry about judgment, especially, that lets us get into joy. That lets us live in the moment, not worrying about what the next moment is going to bring in the performance review of how we are living our lives. Living fully into this idea that we are loved unconditionally. That our lives have meaning and worth just because they are our lives. That there's no one who's going to not love me because I did it wrong. This joy, when you live into those moments and that amount of knowledge, when you can live in the now and feel that, that's not a trivial thing. And there are those who would say that joy is trivial in the face of so much hardship in the world. But the thing is, when we can live in that now and feel that joy from that knowledge that we are enough as we are, that is the thing that will fuel us and sustain us when we have to do the hard things. I've asked us all to do a lot of hard things this church year already. None of the themes that we have talked about are easy in any way. To see beauty in others where no one else can see it. To welcome a stranger into our lives simply because they are a worthy life in front of us. Talk about giving up control. To approach our vision of the world with faith, with fidelity, to take a risk without knowing the outcome, that our vision of the world is what it's supposed to be. Talk about giving up control. To be a source of hope for someone else. All of that is a letting go of control. All of that is a letting go of a worry about the next moment. All of that requires us to live in the now and to feel the joy so that we can fuel ourselves to do it. If we can tap into that moment, if we can tap into that joy, it eases the work of our faith. It eases our way of being together. Oh my God, you're here. We have to rejoice. All too often, we get a little too caught up listening to the voices of the two brothers in that story of the prodigal son. Either we are the runaway who has taken the inheritance and spent it all down and come home in shame, feeling like we don't deserve to be anything but a slave to our own families, that we are undeserving of the unconditional love we have access to, of the hope we have access to, and so we wall ourselves off from it, feeling like we don't deserve it. Or sometimes we're the brother who stayed home going, no, that person screwed up. They're not worthy of love or hope. And we withhold the love and the hope within ourselves that is ours to give in that moment. Those very things within us that can heal the world around us. We do that instead of listening to the voice of the loving parent, just saying, I thought you were lost, and here you are. Oh my God, you're here. We thought you were dead, and here you are alive. Welcome home. Let's celebrate. If we live too much in the past or worry too much about the future, we cannot offer what is in ourselves here and now. We don't have access to it. And what matters most in the practice of our faith is what we can offer from within ourselves, here and now. What we can allow ourselves to receive here and now when we don't feel like we deserve it, without judging ourselves, without worrying about the future too much or putting too much stock in the past. Joy in the now, in the realization that we are loved and we are worthy, that we are all redeemable. That lets us let go of the past and lets the future take care of itself. Because as much as we want control, we have very little. when we come to this season of Advent again. That pink candle there next week, that is the candle of joy. But we're doing a pageant next week, so I'm going to talk about it today, dang it, because joy is important. In those moments when we pause during Advent, when we take this season to pause in the mad rush of the holiday seasons, to remember who we are and who we're supposed to be the source of hope, to be the source of unconditional love in the world, to be the hands of justice working in the world. All of that requires the fuel of joy, and we must pause to remember that as well. To pause and to be in the moment. Forget about the past for a little bit and stop worrying about the future and let it take care of itself so we can see what is happening all around us in the moment and have that beautiful moment of, oh my God, you're here. I love you. I'm not going to abandon you. Let's celebrate. We have to rejoice. May it be so.